When you are truly transformed into a warrior and have truly invested yourself into warriorhood, you want to be there. You want to be able to make a difference. While there is nothing morally superior about the sheepdog, the warrior, he does have one real advantage, only one. He is able to survive and thrive in an environment that destroys 98% of the population. There was research conducted a few years ago with individuals convicted of violent crimes. These cons were imprisoned for serious predatory acts of violence, assaults, murders, and killing law enforcement officers. The vast majority said that they specifically targeted victims by body language, slumped walk, passive behavior, and a lack of awareness. They chose their victims like big cats do in Africa, when they select one out of the herd that is least able to protect himself. However, when there were cues given by potential victims that indicated they would not go easily, the con said they would walk away. If the con sensed that the target was a counter-predator, that is, a sheepdog, they would leave him alone unless there was no other choice but to engage. One police officer told me that he rode a commuter train to work each day. One day, as was his usual, he was standing in the crowded car, dressed in blue jeans, t-shirt, and jacket, holding onto a pole and reading a paperback. At one of the stops, two street toughs boarded, shouting and cursing and doing every obnoxious thing possible to intimidate the other riders. The officer continued to read his book, though he kept a watchful eye on the two punks as they strolled along the aisle, making comments to female passengers and banging shoulders with men as they passed. As they approached the officer, he lowered his novel and made eye contact with him. "You got a problem, man?" one of the IQ-challenged punks asked. "You think you're tough or something?" the other asked, obviously offended that this one was not shirking away from him. "As a matter of fact, I am tough," the officer said, calmly with a steady gaze. The two looked at him for a long time, and then without saying a word, turned and moved back down the aisle to continue their taunting of the other passengers. The sheep. Some wolves may be destined to be sheep, and others might be genetically primed to be wolves or sheepdogs. But I believe that most people can choose which one they want to be, and I'm proud to say that more and more Americans are choosing to become sheepdogs. 7 months after the attack on September 11th, 2001, Todd Beamer was honored in his hometown of Cranberry, New Jersey. Todd, as you recall, was the man on Flight 93 over Pennsylvania who called on his cell phone to alert an operator from United Airlines about the hijacking. When he learned of the other 3 passenger planes that had been used as weapons, Todd dropped his phone and uttered the words, "Let's roll," which authorities believe was a signal to the other passengers to confront the terrorist hijackers. In 1 hour, a transformation occurred among the passengers. Athletes, business people, and parents, from sheep to sheepdogs, together they fought the wolves, ultimately saving unknown number of lives on the ground. Do you have any idea how hard it would be to live with yourself after that? There is no safety for honest men except by believing all possible evil of evil men. Edmund Burke, Reflections of the Revolution in France. Here's the point I like to emphasize, especially to the thousands of police officers and soldiers I speak to each year. In nature, the sheep, the real sheep, are born as sheep. Sheepdogs are born that way, and so are wolves. They didn't have a choice, but you are not a critter. You, as a human being, you can be whatever you want to be. It is a conscious, moral decision. If you want to be a sheep, then you can be a sheep, and that is okay. But you must understand the price you pay. When the wolf comes, you and your loved ones are going to die if there is not a sheepdog there to protect you. If you want to be a wolf, you can be one. But the sheepdogs are going to hunt you down, and you will never have rest, safety, trust, or love. But if you want to be a sheepdog and walk the warrior's path, then you must make a conscious and moral decision every day to dedicate, equip, and prepare yourself to thrive in that toxic, corrosive moment when the wolf comes knocking at the door. For example, many officers carry their weapons in church. They are well concealed in ankle holsters, shoulder holsters, or inside the belt holsters, tucked into the small of their backs. Anytime you go to some form of religious service, there is a very good chance that a police officer in your congregation is carrying. You will never know if there is such an individual in your place of worship until the wolf appears to slaughter you and your loved ones. I was training a group of police officers in Texas, and during the break, one of the officers asked his friend if he carried his weapon in church. The other cop replied, "I will never be caught without my gun in church." I asked why he felt so strongly about this, and he told me about a police officer who he knew who was at a church massacre in Fort Worth, Texas in 1999. In that incident, a mentally deranged individual came into the church and opened fire, gunning down 14 people. He said that officer believed he could have saved every life that day if he had been carrying his gun. His own son was shot, and all he could do was throw himself on the boy's body and wait to die. That cop looked me in the eye and said, "Do you have any idea how hard it would be to live with yourself after that?" Some individuals would be horrified if they knew this police officer was carrying a weapon in church. They might call him paranoid and would probably scorn him. Yet these same individuals would be enraged and would call for heads to roll if they found out that the airbags in their cars were defective, or that the fire extinguisher and fire sprinklers in their kids' school did not work. They can accept the fact that fires and traffic accidents can happen, and that there must be safeguards against them. Their only response to the wolf, though, is denial, and all too often, their response to the sheepdog is scorn and disdain. But the sheepdog quietly asks himself, "Do you have any idea how hard it would be to live with yourself if your loved ones were attacked and killed, and you had to stand there helplessly because you were unprepared for that day?" The warrior must cleanse denial from his thinking. Coach Bob Lindsay, a renowned law enforcement trainer, says to the warriors that practice, "When, then thinking, not if when." Instead of saying, "If it happens, then I will take action," the warrior says, "When it happens, I will be ready." It is denial that turns people into sheep. Sheep are psychologically destroyed by combat because their only defense is denial, which is counterproductive and destructive, resulting in fear, helplessness, and horror when the wolf shows up. Denial kills you twice. It kills you once at your moment of truth when you are not physically prepared. You didn't bring your gun, you didn't train. Your only defense was wishful thinking. Hope is not a strategy. Denial kills you a second time because even if you do physically survive, you are psychologically shattered by fear, helplessness, horror, and shame at your moment of truth. Chuck Yeager, the famous test pilot and first man to fly faster than the speed of sound, says that he knew he could die. There was no denial for him. He did not allow himself the luxury of denial. This acceptance of reality can cause fear, but it is a healthy, controlled fear that will keep you alive. I was always afraid of dying, always. It was my fear that made me learn everything I could about my airplane and my emergency equipment, and kept me flying respectful of my machine and always alert in the cockpit. Brigadier General Chuck Yeager, an autobiography. Gavin de Becker puts it like this in Fear Less, his superb post-9/11 book, which should be required reading for anyone trying to come to terms with our current world situation. Denial can be seductive, but it has an insidious side effect. For all the peace of mind deniers think they can get by saying it isn't so, they fall. The fall they take when faced with new violence is all the more unsettling. Denial is a save now, pay later scheme, a contract written entirely in small print. For in the long run, the denying person knows the truth on some level. And so the warrior must strive to confront denial in all aspects of his life and prepare himself for the day when evil comes. If you are a warrior who is legally authorized to carry a weapon and you step outside without that weapon, then you become a sheep, pretending that the bad men will not come today. No one can be on 24/7 for a lifetime. Everyone needs downtime. But if you are authorized to carry a weapon and you walk outside without it, just take a deep breath and say this to yourself. Bah. This business of being a sheep or a sheepdog is not a yes-no dichotomy. It is not an all or nothing either or choice. It is a matter of degrees, a continuum. On one end is an abject head in the grass sheep, and on the other end is the ultimate warrior. Few people exist completely on one end or the other. Most of us live somewhere in between. Since 9/11, almost everyone in America took a step up that continuum, away from denial. The sheep took a few steps toward accepting and appreciating their warriors, and the warriors started taking their job more seriously. The degree to which you move up that continuum, away from sheephood and denial, is the degree to which you and your loved ones will survive physically and psychologically at your moment of truth. That is from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, an excerpt from the book On Combat.